Every 4 years, the entire planet loses its mind. Grown adults are crying in public. Strangers are hugging in bars. Your uncle who hasn't exercised since 2004 is suddenly a tactical genius screaming at a television. The World Cup arrives, and it feels like the entire human species agreed, without you, to temporarily abandon all rationality. And yet, there you are, completely unbothered, minding your business, not a single care in the world about 22 men chasing a ball across a rectangle of grass. And somehow, you are the weird one. Today, we're going to talk about the psychology of people who genuinely, sincerely do not care about the World Cup. Not the people pretending they don't care to seem cool, the real ones. The ones who look at a packed stadium of 60,000 screaming fans and feel absolutely nothing. What's actually going on in their heads? And more importantly, are they fine? Because I promise you, the science here is way more interesting than it sounds. Let's start with something that will make the football fans in the room very uncomfortable. Not caring about the World Cup isn't apathy. It's actually a completely different psychological profile than you'd expect. Research on what psychologists call need for affiliation, basically how much a person craves belonging to a group, shows that people low in this trait often find mass collective experiences genuinely draining rather than energizing. When 100 million people all feel the same thing at the same time, someone with a low need for affiliation doesn't feel connected. They feel crowded, like someone opened the door into a room where everyone is too loud and too close and there's no food worth eating. Their nervous system isn't wired for the crowd hit. The dopamine that other people get from collective euphoria just doesn't land the same way. Now here's where it gets interesting. The people who don't care about the World Cup are statistically more likely to be what researchers call internally motivated. Their reward systems are calibrated toward personal mastery, individual achievement, and private satisfaction. They get their highs from finishing a book, solving a problem at work, or perfecting a recipe nobody else will ever taste. The concept of outsourcing your emotional state to a team you have no control over, filled with players who don't know you exist, competing in a tournament that started before your opinion was consulted, to them, that is genuinely confusing. It's not that they're cold, it's that they've already built a whole emotional economy elsewhere, and football simply isn't the currency. There's also a fascinating thing happening with identity. Sports psychology has spent decades documenting what's called burging, basking in reflected glory. When your team wins, your brain releases real hormones. Your testosterone goes up. Your self-esteem improves. You walk differently. You use the word we without any embarrassment whatsoever. We won. You, sitting on your couch eating crisps, did not win. But the brain doesn't care. It processes group victory as personal victory, because tribal belonging is literally one of the oldest survival mechanisms we have. The people who don't care about the World Cup aren't broken. They've just built their tribal identity somewhere else. Their we lives in a different neighborhood. Maybe it's their family, a small creative community, a niche online forum about vintage keyboards. Who knows? The belonging drive is still there. It's just not wearing a jersey. And let's be honest about something that nobody says out loud. Some people who don't care about football had the experience of being told football was for other people when they were young. Gender dynamics play a significant role here. Women who grew up in households where the sport was treated as a male domain often didn't get the formative years of emotional investment that turn casual viewers into lifelong fans. The World Cup indifference isn't apathy, it's just absence of early programming. The brain forms emotional attachments to things it was exposed to repeatedly during childhood, especially when those exposures came with warmth, belonging, and family. If you didn't get those football Saturday moments, you're not going to manufacture the feeling as an adult just because the whole internet tells you to. There's also a type we should name directly, the person who is specifically allergic to hype. These are individuals high in what psychologists call reactance, a psychological phenomenon where being told you must feel something creates an equal and opposite resistance to feeling that thing. The more mandatory the enthusiasm, the more these people want to read a book. It's not contrarianism for its own sake. It's a deep-seated need to protect the autonomy of their own emotional responses. Tell them the whole world is watching, and they'll find something else to do. This is actually a personality feature, not a bug. People high in reactants are generally harder to manipulate, more independent in their thinking, and significantly more annoying at World Cup parties. What's remarkable is that the World Cup indifferent person is often not indifferent to sports at all. Many of them care deeply about other things: athletics, tennis, chess, Formula One, sports where individual excellence is front and center, where one person's decisions and skill are the story, not the collective performance of a national team carrying the geopolitical weight of a flag. Football at the World Cup level is fundamentally about national identity, and for people who have a complicated or indifferent relationship with nationalism, that dimension actively works against engagement. They're not rejecting sport, they're rejecting the story football tells at this scale. Here's the most important thing though, the thing the football people will never say because they're too busy buying temporary face paint. The research on emotional well-being and spectator sports is genuinely mixed. The people who are deeply invested in team outcomes show measurable spikes in cortisol, the stress hormone, during games. There are documented increases in domestic incidents in certain countries when national teams lose. The emotional volatility of being a true believer is real, and it has costs. The person who watched a calm documentary while the final went to penalties, their cortisol was completely fine. They slept well. Their Tuesday was normal. Sometimes what looks like emotional detachment is just a person who found peace in very small, private, reliable things, and is quietly thriving while everyone else is arguing about VAR decisions. So the next time someone looks at you blankly when you ask if they watched the match, don't feel sorry for them. They are not missing something essential. They are not emotionally stunted. They have simply organized their inner life around different things. And there is, according to the science, nothing wrong with that. What is slightly worrying is if they don't care about anything. That's a different video. But not caring about the World Cup specifically, that's just a person who found their joy elsewhere. Leave them alone. They're fine.